Yo yo, it's Hoshi the Hero. So the other day I was scrolling through Twitter and I saw this image and I thought, hey, this looks fun, I'll try it out. And I answered all the questions, but then I thought, I kind of think that there could be a bigger purpose to this. Maybe I'll answer these questions and then see how they compare after I play Three Houses, see if Three Houses changes any of it. So I decided to revamp this questionnaire, add some favorites and least favorites, other questions, take out questions that don't really apply to Three Houses, and just see how it turns out. So we're gonna reminisce about our favorite and least favorite aspects of Fire Emblem. If you want to do this yourself, I'm gonna leave all the questions in the description so you can just copy and paste. Maybe you only want to answer a few of them because this is quite a lot, 40 questions. But I'm really interested in seeing what you guys have to say. I'm just going to do this, revisit it in a few months after I play Three Houses, and hopefully Three Houses can change some of these favorites. But let's just get into it. First off, favorite game, that's Path of Radiance. It's not the best in terms of gameplay. It's very good, some of the best gameplay story integration. The only one that does it better is Thracia, but sometimes I'd say that does a disservice to the gameplay, where it's like, oh hey, I just died to Sanctum reinforcements, but hey, at least it makes sense in the story, Path of Radiance, I think, it always does service to the gameplay usually. There's just so many, it has the best story of any FE, I think. There's so many small details that really help build up the world, but I'm gonna gush about Path of Radiance all over this list, so I'll just leave it there for now. My least favorite game is gonna be Binding Blade. If you've been watching my Binding Blade Iron Man, you might think this is mad cause bad.
No, it's 70, please!
But in reality, it was already one of my least favorites, and it wasn't playing the Iron Man that made me put it at the bottom, it was playing Fates that made me put Fates above it. So Binding Blade, there's a lot of issues with it. I'm so confused on how Mangs says it's his favorite game. He said he's going to make a video about why someday, and I really want that, because it doesn't make sense to me how you can hate on Revelation's map design, but then somehow think that Binding Blade's Gaiden maps are excusable. But hey, that's just my take. My favorite world, Tellius. Tellius to me feels like, when I think of a Fire Emblem, I think of Tellius, not like Arcanea or anything. It's Tellius to me feels like the world of Fire Emblem. It's just the most fleshed out. All the base conversations and stuff, all the different aspects of the game really go to flesh the world out. All the villages, villages will change depending on who you go and who you send to talk to the village. It has more boss quotes than any other game. The support, it's just everything about it. Just Tellius feels alive, and that's what I love. Least favorite, Fateslandia. Just the fact that it doesn't even have a name should go to say a lot. I think everything about that world just feels like a bunch of random set pieces where hey, this is a cool concept. There's no coherent narrative stringing everything together. Politics, it's very loose things hey, this place is allied with Nor, this place is the neutral country, but it's just all a bunch of country of the day sort of. The fact that you can learn about a country, kill its leader, and take over, or I don't know, take over, but basically you're introduced to a country and you destroy it all in one chapter. Mokushu is what I'm talking about, but yeah, just nothing about Fate's world feels realistic at all. Favorite protagonist? It's Psyche. I'm just gonna leave it at that because I know I'll go on forever. Least favorite? Corrin. Same thing. I'm just gonna leave it at that because I'll go on for a long time. We'll probably have enough of that throughout this whole list. Favorite antagonist? I want to give it to my boy Ashnard, but I'm gonna have to say Black Knight. Black Knight, I think he changes a bit between Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn in not the most authentic way, but Path of Radiance Black Knight I like Path of Radiance Black Knight more than Ashnard. Even if Black Knight, I think, like Radiant Dawn Black Knight, I like less than Ashnard. But I'll still put Black Knight as my favorite. Least favorite, it's gotta be Iago. A lot of people have issue with villains that aren't morally gray or any of that, but I think they're really missing out on what actually makes a good villain. There's a lot of other traits you need. For example, Ashnard, like being intimidating, being an actual obstacle to the hero, and just having a point in general. It doesn't have to be a good point, but you have to believe that the antagonist believes that their cause is just, you know what I'm saying? Iago is just the most nothing villain ever. He's not mortally gray, his motivations make very little, sense, or at least there's nothing, like, intriguing about them. He's not really an obstacle. He shows up multiple times and is foiled time and time and time again. He's like a joke of a character, but they still try to make him seem like he's a threat. But it's just telling you that he's a threat. He doesn't actually ever do anything threatening. Or if he does, it's thwarted immediately. So Iago, least favorite. Favorite unit, Soren. Soren is like, I'm not gay, but if I were to have like a favorite, or like a husbando waifu question on this, it would be Soren. Soren. No, this will be an hour-long video if I talk about Soren, so I'm gonna stop there. I have an analysis video that's been in the works for a long time. Hopefully it'll eventually come out, and that's when I'll have my chance to talk about Soren. Anyway, my least favorite unit, Parry. And I should specify these aren't gameplay-wise, this is character-wise, mostly. I mean, it could be based on gameplay, it's whatever you want, and I'm just talking about the characters here. And my least favorite unit has got to be Parry. I hate Yandere's already, but she's just... No, I shouldn't have to say anymore. I hate Parry. Favorite chapter. So I'm gonna... The original questionnaire had favorite battle. I decided to split this into chapter and map. Chapter is more about the story aspects of a map. Maybe the story, gameplay integration, all that kind of stuff, the narrative. Whereas map is the design, the gameplay aspect of the chapter. Story-wise, my favorite chapter, I'm gonna say Doors of Destiny. It's Bruh Moment the chapter, and that's all I'm gonna say. This is from Genealogy of the Holy War. Just, Genealogy has these huge maps, take hours to beat usually. Every hour or every minute of this map is just Bruh Moment. So, I'm gonna say Doors of Destiny, but Blood Runs Red, chapter 11, I think? Maybe that's it, from Path of Radiance. Also a very good chapter. You learn so much about the world and the story through just everything, the base conversations. But the one thing about Blood Runs Red that really sticks out to me, I was watching my friend play it. I had already played it multiple times by this point, and I was like, hey, you should get that village before the thief, gets to it. So he sent Mordecai up to get the village, and the villager, panicked, and you don't even get the item. They're just like, get out of my house. And I didn't even know this was a thing, but it's just another example of where, the Path of Radiance developers thought of everything. And, we weren't even mad. We're just like, wow, that's awesome that they do that. So that gets an honorable mention, but I just gotta go to Doors of Destiny. So my least favorite, this is kind of like a weird question, but I still thought, it could, it's basically a chance to rant about Fate's story. So going forward, I think it's a late game chapter in Revelations. Basically, spoilers for Revelations if you care, which why would you? Basically, this is the one where Anthony betrays you. Corin, the whole time, is like, hey, I trust you. My siblings might not, but I trust you. But then you get to the chapter where Anthony leads him into a trap, and then Corin's like, well, actually, I had told my siblings that if I didn't come back, then they would know that something's happened. So it's like, okay, so Corin didn't trust him the whole time, even though that was like the whole point of Corrin, was that he trusts people, and like that was the theme. And it's the worst part of this is that Corrin is supposed to be the avatar character. You know, this is supposed to be you, but yet there's aspects of his thought process that are completely hidden to you. It comes out of nowhere, where he's like, actually, you know, I had this 200 IQ plan the whole time, and I didn't trust you. Or it's like, what? I don't know. I can't even fathom how they messed up this bad. Favorite map? This one? What was it called? Unhappy Reunion, Chapter 10 from Conquest. I think that's about all I have to say. I'm not a Fates hater anymore, but even when I was, I've got to admit that Chapter 10 from Conquest was a very well-designed map. There's so much going on, so much variation, there's a lot of challenge. It's not like a map where you can just kill every enemy. Like, you actually have to make a strategy that isn't just kill every last one of them. So it's gotta be that one. But the one where you like escape from, there's like all the faceless in the cave, like the Eternal Stairway or something, and you escape, that's also honorable mention. My least favorite map, the Binding Blade. That's one of the last chapters in Binding Blade. It's the one right before the final map for the bad ending. Basically, like, in general, I hate the maps where they just send a ton of weak enemies at you. Or not even weak most of the time. Or, no, they're weak. I think, like, all the Game Boy Advance games have them. I do not like these chapters. They feel like a huge waste of time. It's like, just let me get to the end game already. But the Binding Blade is the worst defender of this. Like, you'll have same-turn reinforcements that literally spawn out of the ground. Just a random tile on the ground, and they just come out from it. And, you know, it's bad. So my favorite boss, this isn't from a gameplay perspective. It can be for you. But for me, I gotta say Schaefer. It's the Chapter 22, I think, solo from Path of Radiance with all the priests that you don't want to kill. Schaefer, his death quote is just hilarious, and that's why he's gotta be my favorite, you know, most memorable boss. My least favorite boss, gotta be from Binding Blade. It's between Wagner and Henning. See, the problem with Wagner, or the problem with both of them, is the low hit rates, although it's way worse on Henning. In Wagner's case, you know, he's got magic. You gotta rush in and kill him to prevent same-turn reinforcements from spawning in and killing all your guys. But the hit rates are unreliable, so, you know, if you miss, you're just open to those attacks. So basically, you gotta get lucky. Let's go! In order to kill him. I mean, you could attack him and then have your cavalry just come in, rescue him, and canto back. It's not fun to do. And since you don't know what kind of enemies are going to be spawning from there, you don't even know if your cavaliers can survive, and it's a mess. But I think I'm going to have to give this one to Henning, because the hit rates are... Henning he's ridiculous. And if he has crit chance, I don't remember if he does, but I think he did, and that's why I'm going to say least favorite. But if he doesn't, I'm going to say Wagner. Everything from this point, I think, is just favorites. So favorite skill, that's got to be the summon skill from Sacred Stones. I think, in general, with Fire Emblem, you never have to experience, like, sacrificing units in a strategic way, if you're good. But with the summon skill, you can kind of get that feel. And I think it's just a really cool idea in general. So item, the Geosphere from Shadow Dragon. Basically, when you use this, every unit on the map takes 10 damage. There's just a lot of cool stuff you could do with this. Like, you can have some clutch saves, you could do some LTC strats. It's just a cool item. Favorite weapon has got to be the Levin Sword. Specifically, I think it's cool when you build your avatar character, specifically like to have a Levin Sword build. Because usually the sword units that have access to this don't have high magic, can't really use it to its maximum ability. So my favorite spell, it's gotta be Invoke. Basically summon, but with even more ghost thingies. So my favorite class, you'd think it's Summoner, and I really like the Summoner class and just the concept in general. but I think I'm gonna have to give this to Ballistician from Shadow Dragon. Just a very fun thing to use. It's like, Shadow Dragon is very unique. It has so many concepts where you're like, I can definitely understand why this never came back, but it is fun to use. So, Ballistician. So my favorite Recruitment. This one has got to be Saber. I don't really remember it. Probably should have looked it up before making this video. But I just remember it having a big impact where I was like, wow, this is epic. Just, you learn a lot about Saber's character right off the bat. Like, it's a solid introduction. You'll probably learn a lot about Celica too through this interaction. It's just an awesome, epic moment. So my favorite Swordsman. This is people where their main weapon is swords, not just anyone that could use a sword. So, guess what it is? It's Saber. I love Saber. So my favorite Axeman. I really want to say Rinka, because Rinka's major cutie. And people won't think that I'm just a rabid Fates hater. But, no, I gotta give it to Barst the Beast. Barst is one of those units where, like, you don't really learn much about them in the story, but they make such a huge impact on you in the gameplay side that you become really attached to them. And Barst was just like my favorite in the Marth games. Favorite Cavalier, Titania. She's a Path of Radiance character, and that's all I've got to say on that one. My favorite Flier, it's got to be Har. If you've ever played Radiant Dawn, you already know why he's there. So my favorite knight, I'm gonna have to say Lucas. He was a major carry in my Echoes playthrough. I've heard that he's not actually good, but for me, I don't know, he just killed everything and took no damage, so I don't know what that's about. Favorite archer is gonna be Bridget from Genealogy. I mean, she's just really cool in general, but specifically there's like a part in chapter 4 where like a bunch of Pegasus Knights come to take like a castle that you just took over. And I think I had already warped all my units back to like the main castle by this point, and it was just her left. And I was like, oh crap, I didn't know that these knights, or the Pegasus Knights, were going to come for this castle. They all had javelins, and for whatever reason, they all attacked her at 2 range, and she killed every single one of them. And that was epic. So favorite mage? Favorite healer? I want to give this one to Mist because story-wise and as a character, she's amazing. Like especially, I don't want to spoil. I mean, it's like an alternate thing that you'll probably never see. You know, she has a bit of Ike in her, and that's really cool, considering that she's just like, you know, a healer. But she has that same resolve, and that's really cool. But, gameplay-wise, Jenny just stomps on her, and just every other, you know, healer outside of Echoes. And she has a good, or, I'm gonna say, like, objectively good character, but very cute, charming character. I just remember, like, the first time I clicked on her, she's like, I'm ready to roll! And I just literally died in real life after hearing that. So I'm gonna have to say Jenny. Favorite thief? It's gotta be Lithis from Thracia. I think thieves in general are, like, the most useful in Thracia. And I just love how in that game, Leaf just has to work with whatever he gets. So he gets a bunch of, like, terrible people on his team. And Lithis is just, like, Lithis' interactions are just hilarious. You know, you don't get characters like this often in Fire Emblem. Favorite dancer? I guess Raisin, if he counts. Yeah, I'll just say Raisin. So villager, or pupil, and student. I guess they're called nobles in Three Houses. So that's how this one's subject to change, but for now, I'm gonna say Cliff. So my favorite non-human unit, that is, I wasn't supposed to type that. I was supposed to, like, build suspense, but there you go. It's Zane. There's a lot of good units, but none that really, like, where it's like, that scream, I'm the best of them. But I think I have to go with Zane, because one, his ability allows you to have 2 bursts on the map, so that's kind of insane. But also, there was like a line in New Mystery of the Emblem. It was exactly what I needed to hear at the time, so it really made an impact on me, so I'm gonna have to say Zane. So my favorite ship, it's Ike and Soren. They're perfect for each other. Their supports, I think, have the most thematic relevance to the overall theme of the story. Like, a lot of people, you know, if they have a really low IQ, they just think the story's about, like, racism bad. But there's a lot more going on, and I think that their support is sort of like the introduction, I don't know about introduction, but it embodies a lot of what the Tellius games are trying to say. So this one is Ike's speech from near the end of Path of Radiance. It's, oh my gosh, it's so epic, and the music, which, speaking of, the song, my favorite song is going to be Rally the Spirit. It's just, you see Ike up there holding his sword up, and I mean, the speech he gives is really good. But then you got the image where he like holds his sword up, and you got all the people from all these different backgrounds, you know, all with them. Just a very inspiring picture, and the song that goes with it. But I think Rally the Spirit is the song where I'm like, yeah, this is my favorite. But, you know, I think with a lot of people, you know, your favorite song of any given genre or whatever is going to change a lot depending on, you know, what you're listening to at the time. So I think I'm going to give a couple honorable mentions and say, what's it called? What Lies at the End from Echoes. I remember when I had played Fates, or when Echoes came out, Fates made me not want to, you know, continue playing the series. Like, I was that disappointed in it. Because I wasn't, like, the biggest Fire Emblem fan at the time. So I didn't know what all the rest of the series had to offer. But when I was looking at the soundtrack for Echoes on YouTube, and I heard this song, and I was like, man, I really want to find out, like, how epic does the story and everything have to be to warrant this kind of music? And that's what made me play Echoes, and, you know, I loved Echoes. It was worth it. So, that's an honorable mention. And I also have to say, You of the Light. It's like the Hoshiden Noble boss battle theme. Specifically, I think, like, Hinoka's the one that most people would associate it with. Just a really awesome boss battle theme. I say that's my favorite song right now, but Rally the Spirit's like the one that I'll always remember. So my favorite game mechanic. Now, it's really hard to pinpoint a single thing, because in Shadows of Valentia, everything works together. Like, I can't single out one gameplay aspect, because it wouldn't, like, make sense without everything else holding it together. So I think what I could say is just the way that classes are radically different from one another. Like, the stats and whatnot, growths. I mean, again, it's like how everything works together, but I think I can encompass a lot by saying the class differences. Because if you've ever heard, like, a noob or whatever talk about Fire Emblem strategy, they'll have, like, these things where it's like, you're gonna have the knight choke the point with 2 archers on the side of them, you know, have a healer behind them, and then a healer behind that to heal that healer. They get attacked at 2 range. Then once I've cleared out some enemies, I'm gonna send my Cavaliers in a box formation, you know, just kind of this kind of stuff where you're like, just use Marcus, lol. But Echoes is the one game where classes actually feel like they do what they're supposed to do. So I'm going to say that. And Three Houses looks a lot like it's following in that footstep, so I'm kind of excited for that. So, class differences. Alright, final 2. So my favorite house. This one's a tough one. I want to say Black Eagles, and I probably will say Black Eagles, but I'm actually going to be going with Blue Lions on my first playthrough. Like, Black Eagles, I think I was getting really attached to the character. Like, I wanted to choose that one because I thought it had the best characters. But then once I decided to switch over to Blue Lions, I started getting really attached to those characters as well. So we'll see how it turns out, but for now, I'm going to have to say Black Eagles. Oh my gosh. Okay, there we go. Alright, favorite Three Houses characters so far? I'm going to say Lysithea. She's not, like, way above the rest or anything, but just from the initial impression, I think I'm gonna like Lysithea. Oh hey, that's all the questions done. Well, alright, remember, answer some of these yourself in the comments below. I'm interested in seeing what you guys have to say. Maybe make your own videos on this, feel free to do that. And remember to like, comment, well, I already said to comment, but subscribe. Definitely do that. Check out some of my other videos. What else? Smack the bell. Yeah, I guess that's it.